just have to wait till Teams kind of gets going a little bit here. There we go. So today's webinar, we take a look at that eLogger advanced administrative features. And when I say advanced, it's not really, it's just that next step in terms of what those advanced admin features are, because we have the initial build set, we have the templates built. Now, what else can we do with it to make eLogger easier for your operators to use and things like that? So with that, that's kind of what I mean by the advanced admin features. So if you have questions, by all means, go ahead and just interrupt me if you want. If you're more comfortable, you can go ahead and put it in the Teams chat. If you have a question, I'll respond that way as well. So you can see on the screen today, what we're going to do is cover the view only templates feature. Now, I bumped this portion out of the templates webinar into this advanced admin feature for a couple of reasons. One, the template webinar usually runs a little bit long, so I need some more time. Second, there is a little bit of advanced functionality when it comes to view only templates, because as you create templates, you can create them as view only for specific user groups. So even if they have the ability to edit an entry, they cannot edit those templates. Then we're going to talk about bulletins and announcements. Bulletins and announcements are just great ways to use eLogger to communicate information that's not an entry. So I'll show you the use of bulletins, show you the use of announcements. And then the big chunk of today is going to be talking about alerts. So you create an entry, there is a specific entry that meets a trigger, and we want to alert someone, whether it be an email alert. If we flag the entry, if we send a notification, or we assign an acknowledgement, we can use that to alert either groups or multiple people or even an individual. And then we're going to take a look at scheduled entries and pre-filled entries. Scheduled entries, simply a reminder to create an entry. Shows on the top of the view logs page, stays there until that entry is created. And then in a pre-fill, your operators will really like this, because behind the scenes, you can create a pre-fill entry that if it contains static pieces of data, you can pre-fill that for them. So that helps them so they don't have to do that. So those are the pieces we're going to cover today. If you have questions, again, either send them into the chat or you can just interrupt me. I don't mind at all. So I'm going to close this quick and we'll get going. And you can see eLogger here. You notice that I have 18 entries. The first thing we're going to talk about is the use of view only templates. So I want to show you this particular entry. I have this incident report. So this is the template that I created in the previous webinar, or templates, I should say, where if there's an incident or an accident report, the employee fills this out. So they fill out this first chunk. Then there's a witness statement they have to fill out. There's some OSHA standards. There's some miscellaneous information. And then there's the nature of an injury. So in kind of theory, Kevin, the operator, would fill out this first few pieces to it. Then if you look on the bottom, there's 3 templates that I would consider like for the supervisors. So there's some supervisor SOP questions and an incident evaluation and a supervisor signature. So the use of view only templates allows eLogger to hide these for those that are not the supervisors. And then when they see it, for those that aren't supervisors, they can see it once data is entered, but they can't edit. So the way we use view only templates is through the user group. So if I get into system administration, I have these user groups created, and I have one that's a full access group. So that's kind of the ones that hold the keys to the castle. And then I have this operator group and a supervisor group. So the operators can fill this entry out, but this is where I want to give them view only access. So if I edit this, and as you create your user groups, this unlimited template access is checked by default, meaning all of the templates that you create, they're going to have access to. So if I uncheck this, I can create view only templates for specific templates. So in this incident report, I want the incident evaluation, I want the supervisor signature and the supervisor questions to be view only. So as they're creating the entry, if there's no data in those templates, they're not even going to be visible. Once there's data inputted into those templates, they will not be able to change it. So I'm going to save this. And then what I need to do to show you, because I'm the only one here, so I'm going to wear a couple hats. I'm going to be the operator and the supervisor. So first, I want to be the operator. So I'm just going to go into this user tab and I'm going to edit my permissions. So right now I'm in the full access group. I'm going to take myself out of this. So I'm going to be Kevin, the operator right now. So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to go back home. And now here's an entry that's been created in its entirety. Here's all of the operator templates we want them to be able to see and to fill out. And here are those 3 supervisor templates that I created. So as Kevin, the operator, I can go to the add new entry screen. And when I add this in, I have this incident report log. So now when I fill this out, I can fill out anything, but notice the last template that I see is the nature of injury. So I can fill this out, and I'm not going to fill everything out. Let's say I'm full-time, and then I just simply hurt my, let's see, say I hurt my neck. So I'm going to save this. So in theory, Kevin just filled this out. Now I'm going to create an alert, and I will actually create this alert later on. I want to notify either a supervisor, a group of supervisors, or a specific, some specific group of people. So the alert goes out, the supervisor has been notified and then has to review this entry. So Kevin, the supervisor, comes into play right now. And then when I edit this, and you won't have to do this stuff, I have to do it now because I'm the only one here. So I have to wear both hats at the same time. So now I'm no longer Kevin the operator, I'm Kevin the supervisor. So I've been alerted to this entry. Now I'm in eLogger, and then when I click edit, I can see all of the things that Kevin the operator completed, and I have the ability to edit. So I can say, you're in the maintenance department and all that kind of stuff. Now, here are those 3 templates that I want just for the supervisors. So as Kevin the supervisor, I can fill these out. I can say, we'll say this was a 2, this was a 1, this was a 3. So an evaluation score of 6, I don't need to do any investigation. And then I sign this electronically as the supervisor. So when I click save, here's that entry in its entirety again. Now the view only template access comes back into play with Kevin the operator. So I got to bump myself from the supervisor to the operator. And now with the ability to edit, I'm Kevin the operator again. I have the ability to edit this entry. So I can click edit and I can go back in and I can change any of these. I can say, we're going to have a couple days missed. Here's some information. I have the ability to edit, but as I scroll down to those 3 supervisor templates, they're view only. I cannot edit those even though I have the ability to edit the entry. These are those view only. So that works really nice. If you have a form that's has a section that has for admin use only or for management use only, you can create those as view only templates for those groups that aren't management or that aren't administration. And then you can include it on the same entry. So that's the view only portion. And that's what I wanted to cover regarding the template. That's in the user group functionality, that view only template access. So with that, let me take a pause here real quick. I'm going to save this entry. Questions at all regarding that?
All right, so I'm sorry, one more time. You click on system admin
Yes,
and then you click on edit user groups.
correct. I get
And
into
then
the
it was
user.
that uncheck the unlimited template, and then you can go in and check who you want.
Yes, that's exactly right. So in the group that you want to create these view only templates for, if I edit this, this is unchecked. So they have
Okay.
view only template access to those 3 templates that they need. And then when I click save, that's a good question. So in this operator group, you can see that they have view only template access to those 3 templates.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So then in the supervisor group, which has unlimited template access, if I do edit that, you can see that um, that box is checked. So they have unlimited template access.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to make one quick change, bump myself back into the full access group so I can see and do everything here. And then I want to talk about bulletins a little bit. Bulletins and announcements. Um, a bulletin is a user-sided function, and it allows you to create notes or pieces of information in eLogger. It's not an entry, but a bulletin is just a little note, and it shows here as a bulleted note right underneath the start date. What I have seen more and more clients use this for is in their control room, you got the big whiteboard and you write, here's some information for today, here's some information for tomorrow, whatever it's going to be. And they use the whiteboard to put up those pieces of information. You can use eLogger's bulletin feature to create that kind of electronic whiteboard in eLogger. So keep in mind that the bulletins being a user-sided function, all of your users will have access to create bulletins. So the bulletin, if I click on that and I click on add new, so you can create any information that you want to. If you have, a chemical being delivered, or if there's a piece of machinery out of equipment, or if you have just some special note, I kind of like to think as bulletins as not, I don't want to say permanent messages, but they could be long-standing messages, but they're messages that will, there kind of is a time frame involved. So you can create a bulletin and then this is the message bulletin. And you can put whatever. I mean, you may have pizza in the lunchroom for today or for the next couple of days, or you may have like there is a particular contractor on site for the next 4 days. Whatever that bulletin is going to be, you can create that. Now you have also the ability to format that. So you can, if I want to bold it, I can underline it. I can change it to a red colored font if I want to. And then you can assign it to a location. If I don't assign it to a location, it's going to be at the root location and everything underneath it. But what I could do is I could assign it to any location that I want to. So only those that have access to that location will see it. So if I have an East area operator group, those that are in the North area operator groups won't see bulletins created for different locations. But if I just put this at the power plant, and then you need dates that it will be valid. So if you want this valid for a week, I could put it's valid from 4/19 to 4/26, and then I can click save. So for the week, this bulletin will be on the view logs page. It will be visible for the operators that have access to that location. Once that end date expires, so once the 26th expires, it will fall off the view logs page. It will still be here on the bulletins tab, but it will be expired. So like if this bulletin, if we have to extend this, I can just edit this and push this date out and it will be bulleted right there. Now notice that it captures my name at the end of it. What happens is anyone that last touched the bulletin, so if they make an edit, they extend the date, they change the wording in it, it's going to capture who last touched that bulletin. And you can create multiple bulletins. You may have one here, so then if I add another one, it's just going to be another bullet below it. So it's a nice way to include some information that's not so much in an entry, but it is visible on the view logs page for, again, those people that need to see it per location. And then once the date expires, it just falls off the view logs page. So that's the bulletin. Now, announcements. Announcements, I have seen announcements used for more permanent types of messages. And an announcement, I have to get into system administration, and the announcement is a system administrator function. So in order to create an announcement, you have to be a system administrator. The announcement shows on the bottom of every user tab. So when I click on that announcement tab, I have this big box that I can create the announcement. So a common announcement is something like this. If you have questions, here's who the system administrators are, or, please contact if you have a question about eLogger. So then if I save this, I can go back home, and on the bottom of every user tab, so I'm on the view logs page right now, there's the announcement there on the bottom. If I go to the add new entry tab, it's on the bottom of that page as well. So you can't really you can kind of create multiples, but if I go back into the announcement, there's no add new functionality. So if I want to create another bulletin, I have to just edit what's in here. I could hit enter a couple of times. I've kind of seen this as well. So we have our COVID-19 protocols, and then what they can do is they just do, here's, protocol 1, or 2, word to spell, protocol 3. So now I just leave a little space. It's still just one bulletin, but it's kind of going to show up as 2 different ones. So that becomes a little bit more permanent of messages, and it's system admin based messages. Your users will not have access to the announcement tab. So there is that announcement at the bottom of the entry. So bulletins and announcements, great ways to communicate that are not necessarily entries, but still using eLogger to inform all of your operators. Questions on any of those 2 pieces? Okay, now get into some of the bigger stuff. What I want to cover today, if I get back into system administration, are the alerts, the pre-fills, and the schedule entries, as well as what we just looked at. But I want to talk about alerts first. So in the alerts tab, these are all of the alerts that you can create, and you can create alerts for nearly anything. If you have a particular reading that's out of range, if you want to inform your safety supervisor of an incident report, if you want to send your shift report to all of your operators, you can create those alerts. So each alert, if I click on add new, each alert has 3 pieces: the alert name, the triggers, and then the actions. So in these actions, we are going to create all 4 types of alerts. The triggers are what you want to trigger that alert. You can trigger it by log, by shift, by crew. You can trigger it by a log's completion status if that log is using the completed on function. You can trigger by a specific location, and what's even more advanced is you can actually trigger an alert based on a template field. So if you have a reading that's below 200 gallons, we want to trigger. If you have a temperature that's above 180, we want to trigger an alert. If you have a tank level that's below a quarter, you can trigger that. So you can use specific template fields as triggers as well. And it's any combination of triggers. And then of course you have to name the alert. I use, what we want to use as a trigger and what is the alert type just in the name. So getting back to that incident report, in this example, I want to send an email to a supervisor when there's an incident report entry created. So I have an incident report email to supervisors. You have to have the name. The name is specifically for you, the system administrators. Your operators will not see the name of the alert. And that description below it is a chance for you to add more information about the particular alert. So you don't have to fill in the description. So we have the name. The next thing we have to do is, what do we want to trigger the alert? So if I want this incident report email, I want when the incident report log type is saved at the power plant location. So I have 2 triggers, and that's all. The log and the location I want as the trigger. Then I have to select an action. You can select multiple actions based on the same triggers as well. You know, I could send a message and I could flag this entry, or I could send a message and I could assign acknowledgers based on these same triggers if I want to. But I'm going to create these alerts as individual alerts today. So the first one, I want to send a message. By far the most common alert type that I've worked with regarding clients. They want an email alert to go out. So once your email server is set up, you can actually start using the alert and you can send out emails. It automatically sends out an email when an entry matches those triggers and the operators click save. They don't have to remember to go out and do that. So dependent on the triggers, of course. So when I send a message, you can put here individual email addresses if you want to. On the right, you can actually send it out to entire user groups as well. So if I wanted to go out to all the supervisors, I just check that and everyone that's in that group will get the email. If I wanted to go out to one person, put it here. If I wanted to go out to 2 or 3 or 4 people, use the semicolon to separate the names. So if I wanted to go out to 2, my second email, go there. Don't hit enter and put it on the second line. Use the semicolon to separate them out. Okay, so I'm going to send this email to Kevin. I've got my trigger set. Now I have the ability to tailor the subject line in the message body. The subject line is defaulted with this in it based on your settings, but there are available fields that I could use as well. So I could say, I want to say the log name. So I'm going to drag this in here. So it's going to say incident report. And now this is a browser thing. So I can say incident report created by, and then I can actually bring in that created by field. So it'll capture who created that entry. And then I could say on, and I can click on this again, drag it in, and there's the entry date. So it would say incident report created by whoever is creating that entry on. And I could, in the message body, I could say, please review the incident report entry and complete the supervisor portions on the bottom. And then I can bring in that eLogger link. If you are sending it to someone who has access to eLogger, you can put that eLogger link in the message body. And then from their email application, they can click on the link. It'll take them right to that entry. Then I can choose if I want to send a detailed report, a condensed report, or not send a report at all. I can include any attachments if I want to. I can have this email go out each time an entry is appended. And then I choose, do I want it sent out once when it's created, or do I want to send a message each time the entry is updated? And a lot of times this depends on the type of data you're collecting and how that data is being collected. But for this, I only want to send it once. So now I click save, takes you back to the alert tab, and then it gives you a little summary. So there's an incident report to the supervisors. Here's the triggers, and here is what it's doing. So you notice that send a message is check yes. And as your alerts grow, as you build more and more alerts, there's a filter section on the top. So if you have 40 different alerts, I can filter out if I want to adjust one, if I want to edit one, if I want to check and see if it's set up correctly. I can have filter by email address. I can filter by log. I can filter by location. So you can filter and separate out and get only the ones that you want to see. So that's the filter. So now with this email alert set, I have to go back home and create another entry. And I'm going to do this real short. So the power plant location is a trigger. The incident report log is a trigger. And then, oops, I spelled that right. And I'll say Kevin, the supervisor, should be getting an email. And then when I click save, there is that entry. So I've matched the triggers. Now, when I refresh my email, It should be popping up here anytime, sometime soon. Might just take a little while. I will be getting that email here shortly as soon as it processes through. There we go. There it is. So now let me bring that over. So there's the email alert that was automatically triggered as soon as I clicked save because it matched the triggers. So here's the subject line, the incident report created by Kevin on. Here's the date and time. Here's the message body. Because I have the link in here, I can click on that and it will take me to that link. And I included the PDF, so it includes that in the email as well. So including the PDF is nice if it's going out to somebody, if they're not on shift or they're working from home or something like that. If they don't have access to eLogger, they can still see the entry from the PDF report. So that's the email alert. The next alert I want to talk about, let's get back into system administration. Back down to the alerts. Now I'm going to add a new one. The next one is I want to flag the entry. So flagging the entry is really nice. And sometimes I think it's a little underutilized. It's a strip of color. Visual cues are real handy inside of eLogger. Anytime you can get a visual cue, it just is a trigger. It catches the eye. Something is up with that entry. You may have to look at the entry afterwards to find out, but flagging the entry puts a strip of color across the top. And you can flag it if something's out of range, or you can flag it if something's not complete or something like that. So I have these rounds entries I do. If you have to do like inside rounds, outside rounds, or plant rounds, something like that, I can create a flag, and I want to say that these rounds are not complete. It's going to flag the entry if the rounds are not yet completed. So now I want to set the triggers. So it's the rounds log. Now is complete shows up because that rounds log is using the completed on function. So I'm going to say when these are not complete at the power plant. So I actually have 3 triggers here. I have the log is a trigger. I have that log's completion status as a trigger, and I have the location as a trigger. So then I want to flag that entry. So when I check that action, I can actually put text in here. I can say rounds are not complete, and then you can change and select the color of that flag. So I want it to be red. When I use darker colors like that, I like to use actually a white text. It makes it stick out a little bit more. So then I can click save, and that alert is done. And there's the flag, and that's what it'll look like. So then when I go home and I make that entry, so we'll say, Kevin's doing rounds today. So the power plant location is a trigger. The rounds log is a trigger. Here's that log's completion status. So it's defaulted to no. So as I'm doing my rounds, I can say, I went to the emergency room, did here and here, and I was in the parking lot. But I didn't finish. Let's say I get pulled away. I got part of them done. I click save. Because I didn't mark it complete, there's that flag. So then anyone with access to that login location is going to see this entry. They're going to see this flag. They're going to see that the rounds are not completed yet. So maybe I get a chance to come back. I can finish my rounds later on. Somebody else maybe sees this flag. They go and finish the rounds for me. So then if it's me, I've been pulled away, I had something to do, and now I can come back and finish my rounds. I can go back in and edit and say, yep, I did all my inside rounds. I did all my outside rounds. There's no doors unlocked and there's no issues to report. Now I can mark this complete. So I am marking this complete. The nice thing about the completion status, it's also marking the time when it was marked complete, and it's going to capture who's marking it complete. And now when I click save, because I'm not matching the triggers anymore, that flag is gone because it's marked complete. So that's flagging of the entry. So the email alert, the flagging of the entry. Questions on those at all? No questions. Okay, perfect. All right, the next one that I want to take a look at um, is, let me find it here. I have the ability to send a notification, and I just need to find where that is. Here we go. So the notifications menu in eLogger is right here in the top right-hand corner. So this is a notification menu that if I have to acknowledge an entry, if your eLogger has been upgraded, you can see what it's here. The notifications inside of eLogger are like internal messages. It's kind of like your smartphone. You know, you get a text message, you got the little red circle on it, and it's got the one so you can click on it and open up and see your text message or your email or something like that. eLogger works in a similar fashion like that. It's an internal eLogger message. So you can use it to trigger that notification and then not send out an email address or an email if you don't want to. So there are certain things that will automatically notify you as a user. You know, if I have an entry to acknowledge, that's an automatic notification. If somebody edits an entry you created, if somebody shares a search with you, if somebody appends an entry you created, those are all automatically sent as a notification to you. Okay. You can also set up to trigger notifications based on specific things. The only thing that is a little bit difficult in the webinar is I can't notify myself because I'm the creator of the entry. So I have this here, a couple of screenshots that I want to show you. So here's an example of the view logs page that has the notification. So what this shows is that I have a notification here. I can then click on it just like I did, and I can see that. So if you see that little red circle with a number in it, means you have a notification. When you click on that, you can then click on what it says here and you can see that particular entry. So we call it's the ketchup on the hamburger. If you have ketchup on the hamburger, you have a notification. Um, the only thing in the webinar is because I'm the only one here, I can't notify myself, but I still want to show you how to create those internal eLogger messages that we call notifications. So get back into system administration and I click on the alerts tab. So this one is going to be, and I want to use it the same fashion. I have this alarm entry that I make, and I want to notify all of the employees that we are going to be testing the fire alarms. I don't want to send out an email, but I want to notify everyone so people understand what's going on. So these are an alarm testing notification. So then I have to set my triggers again. So now my trigger is the alarm log at the power plant location. Now in my alarm entry, I have a type of alarm field. So is it an HVAC? Is it fire? Is it duress or something like that? But I also have a testing option. So I want to actually use the template fields as a trigger. So I want to say in the type of alarm field here, and I want the type of alarm field to equal a value of testing. So now I actually have three triggers again, the alarm log at the power plant location, and when this template field equals this value, and then I want to send a notification. So sending a notification, remember it's that internal eLogger message. I can actually send it to user groups. I can send it to individual users if I need. It just depends on what your needs are. So in this type of scenario, we're notifying people that we're going to test the alarms. I'm just going to send this to everybody. Everybody's going to get the notification. That's what we want. So I can send it once when the entry is created. I can send a notification each time the entry is updated. In this scenario, I'm just going to send it once. And then I can actually have a notification text. And I have these fields that I can use. So I can actually put in here that we can say, alarms will be tested. Please check the entry for the test date. And I can save it. So now here's that alarm testing notification. You'll see that we are sending a notification because I can sort by these columns as your alerts grow and you get more and more alerts. So now if I go back home and I add this entry, so the power plant is a trigger, the alarm log is the trigger, and then I have this type of alarm field. So when I choose testing, I have a date of test field that's conditional. It's based on selecting this, and then I choose the date of the test. Let's say we're going to do it Thursday, and I click save. So I've matched all three of those triggers, the alarm log at the power plant location, and when this type of alarm equals testing. Everybody but me is going to get that notification because I created it. So when everybody else opens up eLogger, they're going to see this up here. They're going to be able to click on it and they're going to be able to see that. So they'll be able to click on it and see when this test date is. So that's a notification. Okay. And I got one more. So I'm going to close this. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you this entry first. So we're going to add an entry. We're going to put this in the east area, and I have this machine status log. So the last one, with the ability to create an entry, and again, this is a user group functionality, you can actually give the ability to assign acknowledgers. And what this is if you give user groups the ability to do that, they can create an entry and then they can assign an acknowledgement to other users. And it's kind of like a read receipt in an email. I create this entry. I want someone to acknowledge that they've read it. And that acknowledgement process becomes part of the entry itself. So it's kind of like that read receipt, and you can see who and when they sent the acknowledgement. You can also see all of those that need to acknowledge and all of those that have acknowledged. The nice thing about the alert is we can automate that process. So in this scenario here, I have these equipment checks. We need to know which machines are online, which machines are offline. So if there is a machine offline, I want someone, whether it be, plant manager, operations manager, maintenance supervisor, whomever, I want them to acknowledge that they know there is a machine that's offline. Okay. So I can go into system administration. I'm going to go back to the alerts again, and this is the fourth alert. So again, we need to name it. So I'm going to say, the machines are offline, and I always tag the type of action it is at the end. You don't have to. I just something that I'm comfortable with. So this is going to be an acknowledgement. Now, I again set the triggers. So when the machine status log type, now this machine status, I don't have it set at the power plant. I have it set at the different areas. So with this, I need to choose multiple locations here. So I want it when it's at the east area, at the north area, at the south, and at the west. So when it's at any one of these locations, and it's the machine status log, and now I want to know when any of the machines are marked as offline. So I want it to match any of the following template conditions. So when the machine one field equals a value of offline, and I have to add each one of these machines in. So when machine 2 equals a value of offline, when machine 3 equals a value of offline, and when machine 4. So the match any is not necessarily an all or nothing thing. This says when any of these template fields match this value, and at any one of these locations, when the machine status log is saved, I want to assign this acknowledgement. Now, when you assign the acknowledgement process works as there's an entries to acknowledge tab for those that need to acknowledge. If you are the assigner, you get an acknowledgements I've assigned tab. So with me being the only one here, I have to be the assigner. I'm going to get the acknowledgements I've assigned tab. That tab stays until everyone acknowledges the entry. So you can always click on that and see who has yet to acknowledge the entry. I can then assign this to user groups, or I can assign this to specific users. So with me being the only one here, I'm going to be the assigner and I'm going to be the assignee. So I'm going to save that. And then there is my fourth alert. So now when I go and I choose, now I have to choose the correct location. So in the east area, the machine status log, and we're going to say now machine 1 is offline and the rest of them are online. So we're running a little bit less megawatts. We're going to say we're running at 25. And when I click save, I have two new tabs here. The acknowledgements I've assigned tab because I'm the assigner. The entries to acknowledge tab because I have to acknowledge this entry. So I can click on this and see there's a pending acknowledgement by Kevin, and it shows right here. So Kevin assigned the acknowledgement at 10:48. Now, if I click on this entries to acknowledge tab, this is the entry that I need to acknowledge. So I can read through it. I am now aware machine 1 is offline. I click the acknowledge link. Now I have no more entries to acknowledge. And now, because I'm the only assignee, this tab is also going to go away because everyone that needs to acknowledge that entry has done so. So when I click on the view logs tab, both those tabs are gone. But I can show the acknowledgers over on the right. And you can see that Kevin assigned it at 10:48. The other Kevin acknowledged it at 10:49. It becomes part of the entry. So 4 alerts: the email alert, flagging the entry, sending a notification, and assigning it an acknowledgement. Questions on any of those 4? Okay, perfect. All right, I got 2 more things to cover. I will try to get them done in the last 10 minutes as well. So first thing that I want to talk about is what we call a pre-filled entry. So I want to show you first the entry without using the pre-filled. So I choose this entry, choose the crew, and now I have this fire extinguisher, these fire extinguisher checks I have to do, whether it be once a week, once a month, every 6 months, whatever it's going to be. And I have this multi-row grid template used. So they go through, they do the fire extinguisher checks, they click the add button here, they say, here's the extinguisher number, here's the location, here's the size, here's the type, here's the serial number, and then they do their inspection. Hose is good, extinguisher condition is good, doesn't need to be hydrostatically tested. Then they walk into the next room or where the next location or the next extinguisher is. Click add. Extinguisher 2, it's in the laundry room, it's a size 4, it's type B, it's 22. And again, this is a lot of clicks for your operators because these first fields basically are static pieces of data. The extinguisher number shouldn't change, the location shouldn't change, the size shouldn't change, the type doesn't change, and the serial number. So the use of a pre-filled entry allows you as the system administrator to pre-fill these. And with the use of a pre-filled, you can actually make it so they can't edit these fields either. They're visible to them, but they can't go in and change them. So there's a couple things I'm going to do here. First, I'm going to go into the templates tab and I'm going to edit this template. So here's those fields that I created, and here's the preview. So this is what it looks like. Now, I'm going to change this a little bit because they're walking to different locations. So I want to move this location first. So I'm going to edit this. And the first thing I'm going to do, because I got a typo in it, it's in the kitchen. And now this let users edit values option when you create fields, I can say, no, I don't want them to be able to edit it. I want them to see it, but I don't want them to be able to edit it. So I'm going to make these 5 fields so they cannot edit it. So the size, I don't want them to, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. The type, I don't want them to be able to edit these values, and the serial number, I don't want them to be able to edit either. Because I am going to, now that I've changed this template, I can go into the pre-filled and I can create a new pre-filled. So these are going to be my fire extinguisher report. I'm going to leave the shift and crew blank so they can choose that when they're making the entry. Now at the power plant and their fire extinguisher checks. So for you as the system administrator creating this pre-filled, it looks very similar to you're actually creating the entry. What you're doing, however, is you are pre-filling those fields that don't change. So I'm just going to throw in like 2 or 3 of them here. Actually, we'll do 5. So we go into the boiler room, then we go into the kitchen, then we go into the laundry room, then we go into the maintenance area, and then we're in the office. Oops, we'll be in the office. So the number here is 1. In the kitchen, it's 9. In the laundry room, it's 6. So you're assigning the number that's in that spot. And then the size, what size are these? What types are they? And then what are the serial numbers? We'll say this one is 11, this one is 99, this one is 66, 4, 33. Now I'm not pre-filling these because they're going to have to go fill these out. So I'm pre-filling these for your operators. So there's some training when they go home. So they're now, you're assigning, say, Kevin, you need to go out and do the fire extinguisher checks. I click on the add new entry. I have this new section up here that says start with a pre-filled. So I can click on that. Now I only have one pre-filled made and I'd set fire extinguisher report and I can use this. So I choose my shift, I choose my crew. My log is already, or my location is selected. My log is already selected. And now in this template, I can see all of these, but being that they're read only, I can't edit. So I can walk into the boiler room, check all of this to make sure that the data is right and do my inspection. So I don't have to make any clicks in these static fields here. So we'll just say everything here so far is satisfactory. This one is satisfactory. We do need to recharge it. This one we'll say in the maintenance area is just really bad. And then in the office, it's good. So I've saved all of those clicks. That's the use of the pre-filled. Your operators will really like that. Plus it eliminates the potential of them clicking on something incorrectly here. So when I click save, that one's done. There's the entry. So that's your pre-filled. Last thing is the use of a scheduled entry. And a scheduled entry is just a reminder. It shows on the top of the view logs tab until that entry is made. So then when I get into the system administration, I can click on this scheduled entry. And when I add a new one, that pop-up is. So for a scheduled entry, I can use a standard log entry or I can use a pre-filled. So I'm going to use a standard log entry. So I have this on shift report. So we can say at the power plant, using the on shift report, I want this to be every day. So I can go daily, I can go weekly. I can choose monthly or yearly. You can make scheduled entries as frequently as once every minute to as infrequently as once a year. So like on the month, I could say every month, or I could say on the last or the first, the first day, first weekend, first Monday, whatever it's going to be. But for this example, we have this on shift entry and I want to do this. This I would probably do twice a day. I want it every day, but it happens twice a day, once on each shift. So I want to show this right now just at 10:58 and save it. And I'll see if I can squeeze. I'm going to save this here. So this would be like if your shifts are at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night, you're going to have 2 times in here. We need to do an on shift entry at 6 in the morning and on shift entry at 6 at night. That tells us, and it shows us who's on shift, and it reminds your operators to go make that on shift entry. Now this on shift entry will stay until the operators make that entry. So I actually have the ability to make entries. So if I do a daily operations, I click save, notice that that on shift entry is still there. You can make scheduled entries mandatory. So it actually takes away the add new entry tab until that scheduled entry is made. You can also, from the add new entry tab, start with a schedule entry here and just click on it. Either one works. But now when I make this, it's going to show that it's at 10:58. So when I click on that make schedule entry, the date is there. I choose my shift, choose my crew. The location is already selected through the scheduled entry. The log is already selected through the scheduled entry. And now I just need to say, here's our 2 supervisors, operators on shift today. And here's our outside operators. And I click save. Now that entry's made, and now that schedule entry no longer appears because it becomes just a regular entry. And I got 1 minute. I finished. Questions on anything?
So when you were in like say that last entry and you had a list of names, how do you edit that list of names?
You would edit that list of names. So like this list right here.
Yeah, if I say like I had some new people start at the plant and I wanted to add them to our checkbox list.
Yep, you would actually go into that template itself. So there's a template here, and I
Yep.
have this personnel on shift. That's the template.
Okay.
I could go in and edit. Now here's the preview. So I'm using the same list for each field, but you can edit each field, and
Okay.
then I can edit here. What I would do is, let's say AJ is no longer with the company. I would delete AJ's name and then I would add in a new one. Don't edit this and just rewrite over AJ's name.
Okay.
Delete that employee that's gone, add in the new one.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions?
Yes. So Kevin, George, and Charlie here at the River Road Generating Plant. Can you make that an hourly scheduled entry?
You could. Yep, I could. If I go into the schedule entries and I edit this, I could say it's going to take some setup from you. So I want this to be every day, and I want it to be at midnight. I want it to be at 1, and I want it to be at 2. So all you would do is you would put each of the times in here. So this will show up now at midnight, at 1 a.m., at 2 a.m., and so on and so forth. So you could have that if you have an hourly entry to do, you can set it up by just adding in each time on the hour.
Okay. So let's say I already have an entry that I already use every hour, but I can
Okay.
make scheduled entry.
You could.
Okay.
Yep. And that reminds them. So then what happens is on the view logs tab at each hour, that schedule entry shows, and it's whatever color you selected that in your settings. And then that just shows on the view logs page. And it shows when the entry still needs to be made.
Perfect.
Yes. So good question. Good question. So if there are no more, I will let you get back to work. I ran a little bit over, my apologies. So if you have any questions at all, just go ahead and send me an email. Give me a call. Be more than happy to help. And that's all we got.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you too.
All right. Take care.